All right, we are back for another edition of the Astro Weather. It is me, Lazarus, aka Robert Phoenix, coming at you. It is the 14th of January, and got a lot to talk about. The first thing I want to talk about is I just want to say thank you to everybody who has wished me well, sent prayers. I mean, all the things that I can't even begin to list. How many people have really been in my corner with this physical thing. And I just want to say thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And it's been a real boon and blessing to my life and kind of blown away by the whole thing, to be honest with you. So thank you for all of that. And that's kind of a preface to give you an update with my condition, procedure, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yesterday, went to the quote unquote heart hospital in Austin. Very nice people. And the staff was super, super friendly and caring. Oh, we got a new Astro Cat here. You going to come into the show? You going to come in? Let me introduce you to Zeus. This is Zeus. Zeus is an apprentice. He's an Astro Cat apprentice. He's learning on the job. So I just wanted to give you a introduction to Zeus. Anyway, the heart hospital staff was really fantastic, and just Zeus. One of the things you have to learn is to not get your tail in the camera. That's like Astro Cat lesson 1. No tail in the camera. Very important. So yeah, I mean the people there were great, and it's just weird having some sense of precognition. And so my precognition, or at least perhaps maybe based on some kind of, I wouldn't say fear or doubt, or just a sense that things may not go according to plan. Because what they do in this procedure, they put you under and then they stick a camera down your esophagus so they can take a picture of your heart and get a lay of the land. Echocardiogram is what it's called. They can only do it when you're under, because you'll have a gag reflex when they stick the camera down your esophagus. Got to be out, right? So, then they move forward and then they hit you with electricity, and then they jumpstart your heart, or one's heart. In this case, my heart. There's a 20% chance that they get it back into, a regular rhythm and beat to get it ticking accordingly. So the rest of the body's organs function better because of that. And one of my concerns was that I'd be one of the 80%, and that this thing wouldn't work and we'd have to go back and do it again. Well, I was about half right. And what happened is that yesterday, they, in the exploratory phase, when they, put the camera down into my heart area, they found that what looks like a small clot that is in my heart. So they couldn't go forward with the procedure. And so I have to go back again. And it's going to be in 6 to 9 weeks. And I've got to go in and, set up another appointment. And so we get to play this game again. And this time I'm probably just going to be just under the radar and real stealth. And maybe I'll just say, hey, 24 hours ahead of time, I'm going in. But it was a very, it's sort of like, how do you view this? Half empty, half full. I'm a little bit of both. Right. The half full part is, well, gee, I'm glad they found this, because maybe it could have been more serious than, than it could have been. Right. So for that, I'm grateful, because the technology of modern medicine basically said, hey, whoa, pump the brakes here. Right. That part I'm grateful for. The other part, the half full part is like, oh fuck, I gotta do this again, which I do. So in the meantime, I'm just gonna do everything in my power to try to neutralize whatever little sticking point is in my heart. The other good news is that they went in and I don't need any stints or anything. So that's, any future issues around that. Who's that in the background? Yeah, we got an Astro cat in the background back there. That's pretty funny. These fucking cats are nuts. They're really nuts. They're the ones that jumped into my dishwasher, into my refrigerator. They're very spirited. Anyway, I just thought I'd give you an update. And again, thank you everyone for your kind thoughts, prayers, wishes, good vibes, etc. Means a lot. And I feel like I'm really lucky and blessed to be a part of this community group, whatever it is, whatever this is that the universe has self-assembled. I feel really blessed to be a part of it, because a lot of people don't have that. And it went through my mind about how many people in the world are alone and don't have the support or don't have community and it feels like we should all have that. We all need a version of that. And that's been a real epiphany for me, and just speaks to how wonderful and real and rooted and loving you guys are. So thank you for that. I really mean that. All right. So why don't we get into first of all, let me just say, I'm not going to do 15 minutes today because I've got to drive back to lovely Kerrville, a city that is a shell, a town, city, whatever you want to call it, 20,000 people, a place that's a former shell of itself. Because, and I realized something, as I went through a bit of my inner dialogue last night, with sort of how I've been feeling. And the flood in Kerrville, and again, it's all relative, right? It's all relative. Nobody died in my family. My house is still intact. So I escaped the ravages of the flood. That said, I also realized that after it happened, I started to get depressed about the flood. And depression is a really interesting thing. Like it doesn't take a lot. And and astrologically, I have a moon Saturn square in my chart. And one of the classic definitions of a moon Saturn square is depression. And there were times in my life where I've really battled with depression. And sometimes it's been brutal, and forcing myself to, go out and jog and clear my head and, get my brain chemistry functioning to the point where, I can get up and live. And depression is weird. People will say, well, why are you depressed? You have all this, and it's like, you can't often quantify it. You can have all the trappings of the world, and if things aren't right, then it makes it challenging to live with. So, and I'm good at coping, and I'm good at part of my coping and part of my management is doing these podcasts, because it helps me stay clear, and it helps me with a sense of I have a purpose, right? So it's therapeutic, but it's also kind of tying into my true node in Virgo in the 10th house, right? I get to be of service. I get to help. Um, I get to use my analytical skills. I mean, all that shit, right? So, I mean, this has been a huge part of my being able to stay sane and not feel depressed and not have that as part of my life. But yesterday I got back in touch with it because I was a little depressed when I came out of the procedure. Again, thankful, grateful that I didn't stroke out, but also a little depressed. And it made me realize that, post flood, I've been kind of depressed in Kerrville. I mean, it's a depressing sight to drive down the highway and see this. And this river, the Guadalupe, is beautiful. I mean, it's kind of why people moved to Kerrville. It was green and verdant, and the banks of the river were lush, and just this, teeming with vegetal life, right? And it's all gone now. It looks like the surface of another planet. Like this could be a river on Mars. And that's a daily reminder of just sort of how fucked up this flood situation is. And then, I found out the other day that my house has lost $50,000. $50,000. Now it may help next year with the taxes, but we're not here, so it's like, oh great. So not only that, but my house is depreciated by half of $100,000 post flood. So the depression part is like something that I've I work with, and for the most part I'm good. I do enough to kind of keep it in check. But the other thing too with this heart thing is that I've had to really curtail my exercise, so I don't get the endorphin rush that I get after I exercise, which makes me feel better. So this has been a really interesting journey and passage, and I'm still not done with it. And getting through this is going to be, just all about mindset. And anyway, I don't want to share too much more because I don't want to make this all about me. This is your time, your hour, where I get to break things down astrologically for you. So let's move on, shall we? Before we get into the actual astrology, there is a quote unquote mundane event that I want to talk about. And, as you know, one of the things that I dive into is culture. And that could be anything. It could be sports, it could be politics, it could be music. Sunday night, we looked at the live streamer, I Show Speed, and his global impact. There's probably more that I could have put into that show, by the way. And it was just his kind of character arc. He goes from somebody who's just cooped up in a room doing crazy shit as a streamer to all of a sudden being catapulted into the world. Talk about a Pluto Sun conjunction. Wow. I mean, that's pretty powerful, right? He kind of reminds me of the Chauncey Gardner character and being there, albeit much more radical and much more visceral and physical. And the other thing I kind of left out is that Mars in Aries that he's got. He's always taking on challenges. He wants to challenge people all the time. People challenge him. We saw that in that video. So I left a little on the table with that breakdown, and I just wanted to sort of circle back and put that together. But I talk about things that are cultural, and referencing the world of pro football as it relates to astrology. I want to bring up Mike Tomlin, and let me just give you guys a visual. Some of you may not know about Mike Tomlin, or it's like, why the fuck is he talking about sports again? But this is really an important. That's Fred Warner. This is the one I want to share. I'm going to share this tab instead. Let me see what we got here. Okay, so now I got to stop sharing that tab, and I got to come back. Thank you, StreamYard, for reminding me that your product is defective. So here we go. This is Mike Tomlin, and I want to talk about this as it relates to astrology. So Mike Tomlin has been the coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers for 19 years. Since I've been watching pro football as a wee lad, the Steelers have had 3 coaches. 3 coaches. The Oakland Raiders have had 4 coaches in the last 5 years. That's just the last 5 years. And the Steelers pride themselves as an organization that is built on continuity. And Mike Tomlin certainly is a testament of continuity. Now, why am I talking about him? Because he's 53 years old. And when you're 53, you are going through a the Neptune-Pluto opposition. And this is something that it's a transit that is really powerful, and something that, when I have a client and they're going through that, I spend a lot of time on that Neptune-Pluto opposition. It's life-changing. It is life-changing. Now, why is it life-changing? Because you have to let go of something that is vitally important to you. Pluto is the silver cord that connects us to this world. And with Neptune on the other side of it, it is tugging at and dissolving that silver cord. And the more that you hold on to the thing that you feel like you need or have to have, or whatever that definition is, and you know what it is at the time. Oh, like, if I let go of this, I'm going to die. Because it's kind of a dress rehearsal for death. And simultaneously, Neptune is trining Neptune in the natal chart. It happens to everybody. Everybody. To me, if you want to talk about the intelligent design of astrology, this is one of the major, profound, like, astrology is a fucking clock. It is an immaculate clock. And we go through things at certain times. Sometimes we don't like what we're going through. Sometimes it's like, boy, I hope this ride never stops. And you look at astrology and it's a wheel. And sometimes you're on top of the wheel and sometimes you're beneath the wheel. Now, I don't have Mike Tomlin's chart. I believe he's a Pisces, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on this, but I think he's a Pisces. And the Neptune trine happens simultaneously with the Neptune-Pluto opposition. So the idea with this, oh, I got to let go, I got to let go, I got to let go. I can't let go. I've coached the Steelers for 19 years. And if I walk away, my haters, there are people that hate Mike Tomlin. He's the epitome of average, just slightly above average. He's a B coach. Hasn't had a losing season in, I don't know, 15 years, something like that. I mean, the guy has set a record for most consecutive winning seasons. And you would think that that is a symbol of success. But in the NFL, if you're not winning Super Bowls and you're not at the top of the draft order, you're treading water. And your city, and Pittsburgh is a very passionate football town. If you're not winning Super Bowls, remember, this is a team of the 70s, then you're not fulfilling your manifest destiny. Now, Mike Tomlin won one Super Bowl, lost another Super Bowl, and he won his first Super Bowl very early on. And that was, I think, Ben Roethlisberger's first season, if I'm not mistaken. And they played the Seahawks in Detroit. Jerome Bettis was the featured star of that scripted show. And I'm absolutely, utterly convinced that the NFL gave that Super Bowl to the Steelers. The refereeing was horrible. Anyway, that's a different story. So Mike Tomlin, and if you understand this, he's been the face of, you got to step down. You got to step down. You got to fire Tomlin. Fire Tomlin. Fire Tomlin. We'll never get to a Super Bowl. He's captain above average, but not excellent enough to take him to the promised land. And all these voices are chirping. And Mike Tomlin is probably one of these guys. It's like, well, yeah, I got to show these people. I've got to prove them wrong. I'm going to hang in there. Like, after they won that game against the Baltimore Ravens, that assured them of yet another one and done in the playoffs, Mike Tomlin was beating his chest. He was there to show the world that you can't tell me to leave. You're not going to coerce me or bully me or shame me into being fired. I won this game. We're back in the playoffs. We live to fight another day. Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback of the Steelers, shared his sentiment. However, somewhere between the final seconds ticking off from their Monday night game and yesterday, Mike Tomlin met with the Rooney family and decided to step down with 2 years left on his contract. This is the successful navigation of a Neptune-Pluto opposition. He's not hanging on. He's moving into that Neptune trine, which again is kind of a dress rehearsal for death, because you let go. You just let go and you move into the flow of where life's taking you versus holding on to what life has been. So I just wanted to bring this up because what we're witnessing through Mike Tomlin, and I believe he's a Pisces. Let me just look here. Is the successful navigation of an astrological aspect, IRL. March 15th, I was right. So we have a Pisces showing us how it's done. We have a Pisces navigating towards Neptune versus dramatically holding on through Pluto. And I think this is where astrology becomes very instructive. We saw this with Tom Brady when he was going through the Saturn opposition, had made an agreement with Gisele Bündchen that he was going to end his career after the final season. I forgot how long ago that was, 2 years ago, when he was 44. He was 44, Saturn opposition. They had an agreement. And Tom Brady went back in his agreement. You're supposed to do something different with a Saturn opposition. He didn't do it. He went back and he did this. Now, Tom Brady is set up. He's got an ownership stake in the Raiders. He's an announcer. He got a $100 million deal. He had a $100 million deal waiting for him as an announcer even before he retired. He had a golden path. The yellow brick road was laid out for Tom Brady. And all he had to do was step into it. But he went back on his word, and that final season in Tampa Bay was an unmitigated disaster. They didn't make the playoffs. Tom struggled. It was probably one of his least successful seasons as a professional quarterback, and he blew up his family. Now, he still could have had his deal, and he still could have had his 10% ownership stake in the Las Vegas Raiders. He could have had it all, but he didn't. And he doesn't. And so everything that Tom Brady does from this point forward feels a lot like a hollow quest in some ways. It's like the hero's journey without any soul. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we have two situations here where somebody should have had an astrologer, should have listened to an astrologer, Tom. And I don't know if Mike Tomlin's got an astrologer in his back pocket, but Mike Tomlin, this might be your greatest victory of all time. It might outshine your 19-year reign or your one Super Bowl win. But acceding to the forces of the stars and your chart, you are victorious. All right. I just wanted to get that out there because it's a really public display. Really public display. Okay, let's get into the weather. Let's talk about the weather. There's a lot happening, obviously geopolitically, and can we see that inside of the weather? We're going to do our best here to try to figure that out. Whoops, let's go back in here. Let's go back to the share. Right here. Let's see. Here we go. All right. Let's get back in here. I was just trying to make this a little bigger for you guys. There we go. All right. So what are we dealing with? There's a lot going on with the Supreme Court right now, which is a very Capricornian, Saturnian institution. They all dress in black. And black is the color of Saturn. It is. If you look at almost all the religious figures or the sort of the big three, they all dress in black. They all dress in black. Ministers, priests on the western side, black, painted black. Judaism, the rabbinical faith, right? Black. Islam, the imams, black. The Supreme Court, the hierophants, the high priests of the law of the land in this country, the United States, black. So Saturn, you can see Saturn as an adjudicator and a judge, uh, because that's what all those characters represent: judgment. Judgment. The middlemen of religion are there ultimately to judge you. How well or how close are you living to the law of their various scriptures? If you're not living close to their law, you are judged. You will not go to heaven. You will not go to the realm where Allah has 50 virgins waiting for you. You will not go to planet Z or wherever the cosmic mandate comes in the realm of Talmudic Judaism. You're not going to get to those places. And each one of them has their own criteria for judgment, just like the Supreme Court has its own criteria for judgment. So I lay this all out because the Supreme Court is ruling on two major cases right now, and we see this stellium in Capricorn, right? And right now, it's all in, well, except for Mercury. Give Mercury 2 days and it'll join the party. These three celestials are all in the Virgoan decan, which means that this is the critical phase for Capricorn. Critical phase, judgmental phase. Virgo is a judgmental sign. It is. It's critical. It's critical in the sense that it's mission critical, but also critical in the sense of like analysis, that kind of critical. So the Supreme Court has two major cases that they're going to be judging on. One of them is transgender athletes. Huge. It is a huge case. It has been brought before the Supreme Court, not by the litigants or the people who, no, the litigants are the people that are bringing this to the Supreme Court. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it is the legal team that represents trans athletes because they've been ruled against on a state level. Trump has gone in and, sort of executive ordered certain things. So now they want their position and their ability for trans athletes to have free reign and basically show up and participate in any sport and in any locker room. This is huge. This is a huge, huge judgment because once the Supreme Court, theoretically, this is not always the case because I've seen certain bodies just absolutely disregard what the Supreme Court has ruled. We only have to go back to the state of New York when the Supreme Court said to what's his name, Cuomo, that you need to let people go back into churches and places of worship during COVID. You cannot deny them their ability to access worship. And what did Cuomo say? He said, go pound sand. He said that. Those were his words. And guess what? He didn't open those places back up. He didn't. And nobody showed up at any of the places of worship in New York with ICE or the National Guard. And, we didn't get Selma, Alabama all over again. So I'm just saying this because sometimes the rulings of the Supreme Court don't always stick. They don't always stick the landing. That's one. The other one, which is the most important, perhaps even more important than the trend, is Trump's tariff issue. It is being adjudicated and will be ruled upon by the Supreme Court. I don't get a good feeling about it. And the reason why is because we have Jupiter over here retrograde. Now, let's talk about the gravity of the Supreme Court ruling against the tariffs. It means that all of those gains theoretically are negated. And part of the narrative is you got to send the money back, because if it was obtained under illegal circumstances or unlawful circumstances, then guess what? You got to give it back. And if that happens, what is the impact on the economy? Now, the Supreme Court may say, well, he's able to do what he wants to do. They've got a bit of a conservative edge, but you never know with these people. Coney Barrett is a traitor, and I went over her chart a long time ago before she was even named, and I told her she would be a thorn in the side to Trump, and she has been. She's basically a semi-liberal in a conservative frock. And then you have John Roberts, who is compromised because he's got 2 kids that he adopted illegally. So if hey, you're going to vote this way, what is John Roberts going to do? He's going to vote the way whoever is pulling the strings on the puppets in the Supreme Court will pull John Roberts' string. So you can vote this way. So Roberts and Coney Barrett are always the swing. They're always going to be the swing. So you want to pay attention. And Coney Barrett, whose son sits right on top of Trump's midheaven, which is conjunct Algol, not great. This is the Supreme Court justice that you want to pay attention to. ACB, as they call her. So this is significant. And especially with Jupiter over here, right? Because the whole idea with Jupiter and Cancer would be, hey, we're going to make America theoretically great again, right? Like, we are a Cancerian country. And you can see where Jupiter is going to conjunct Sirius, which is the guiding star that the founding fathers had put together for this country. Like, we're going to start the process of the Declaration of Independence on this day. And as a result of this day, we are going to be guided by the binary suns of Sirius and the sun. We're not the only country, right? Venezuela and Canada all celebrate their statehood right around the same time. Gee, you wonder why? It's because Freemasonic thought and Freemasonic understanding of the planets and symbols is informing all 3 of these countries to have Sirius as their guiding star. And if you look at what's happening in the news cycle, you have Venezuela, Cancer country. I believe July 4th is their Independence Day. In Canada, they're in the news. This whole idea of annexation that Trump as Caesar has brought into the conversation as part of the conversation. Anyway, the idea with the tariffs is that there's going to be a tax on goods, and the tax on those goods that are coming into the country will reinvigorate the economy. And if it's an American company doing business overseas, you guys know this, that they're going to say, hey, we got to get out of this tariff situation. Let's explore manufacturing back in the U.S. or Mexico. Remember, Mexico is part of NAFTA. So would it take an arm and a leg for a country, or company rather, to move their operation to Mexico or to move their operation to Canada, all part of NAFTA? No. Even though Trump has said, we're going to impose these tariffs on Canada, which I think he has, like, there's wiggle room. There's clearly wiggle room. But in order for this to have any kind of traction, you need to be able to have a significant amount of time to ramp up these companies, because setting up manufacturing is not an overnight task. There's a lot that goes into it. It's manufacturing, it's supply chain, it's logistical support. All those things have to be completely overhauled if you're going to do that. But that's the idea with tariffs, right? You have to have they're much better. Tariffs would be much like tariffs would have been okay in a 1960s, 1970s sort of world where we still had some manufacturing here. Like, oh, great. You're going to pay a lot more money for those Japanese fucking cars because of the tariffs, even more than you probably had to pay. And they were cheap. And so by just by economic contrast, Detroit's cars, they're pieces of shit that they made in the 70s, would become, much more viable and enviable because there would be about a, $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 price discrepancy between Japan and the US. That didn't really happen. So this is huge, right? This is a big time that we're in. And it's all predicated on all of these Capricorn planets coming in and starting this opposition with Jupiter. You can see this. This is the tariff opposition. I think if we want to get into Chiron and Aries, this is the transgender angle of it all, right? Chiron and Aries is the wounded male, and Aries is related to sports. Because in sports is, you're going to get at sometimes mano a mano. Like if you go back to the Summer Olympics in Paris, where you had two boxers who clearly were not born female. That's a very Aries sport, right? Boxing is very Aries. And you have a clear advantage. Even if you're a transitioning male and you have these estrogen treatments, well, you can have all the estrogen. They can pump all that estrogen into you, right? And all they have to do is just slightly manage your testosterone. So you can elevate the estrogen, but you can also elevate testosterone. And as long as the testosterone is just slightly below the estrogen, right, you're going to have the effects of the estrogen, but you're also going to have the effects of the testosterone. So you're going to be, and when you go through a quote unquote sex change, you're going to have this kind of, I don't want to use the word symphony because it's too grandiose. You're going to have this concatenation, I guess, of hormones inside of your body, right? You're going to have that. It's not business as usual. And, the Olympics used to make a big fucking deal out of this. Just look at the East German swimmers. I mean, they were built like men. Totally built like men. And in fact, the entire East German women's team was like very manly. Track and field, and you go back in the day, East Germany was right up there with Russia and the United, because the East Germans were cheating. And you saw the effects of the hormone treatments inside of women. So we have the wounded male, and the wounded male as it relates to conflict, competition, Chiron and Aries. It's at that 22nd degree, which is kind of a weird degree in astrology. People always come up to me and say, well, not always, but a lot of times they'll say, hey, isn't the 22nd degree really difficult? I've been reading about the 22nd degree. There is some truth to that. That there is, and the reason why I think there's some truth to that is because it's a master number, and you have to live up to the master number. If you don't live up to the master number, you can be really fucking deflated. You can have a sense of, man, I'm supposed to do something important with this, whether it's Mercury or Venus or Mars or the sun or your ascendant or your midheaven right? That degree is like, I got to do something important with this. And if you can't do something important with it, then there's this feeling of entropy that takes place, and sort of the walls are sort of caving in, and it's like there's an intense internal pressure to live up to something. That's how I see the 22nd degree as it's related to numerology. So you can see what's going on with the Supreme Court here and here, right? This is the tariff issue, and this is the transgender, the augmented human issue. And keep in mind, we've been going through the augmented human issue really since Chiron went into Aries. Is it Saturn? Hey, this is the definition of a male and a female. Or is it Uranus? Hey, we're going to be gender fluid. We're going to have a radical definition of what gender is. And that's the negotiation between Saturn and Uranus when we talk about Chiron. So how does this relate to you? Just in general, right? So those are the macro issues. The micro issues are when we get into the square right here with Chiron. Capricorn is a power sign. There are, let me go over the power signs. Capricorn, Aries, Leo, Scorpio. Those are the 4 power signs. If you're not one of those signs, don't take it personally. You have a unique power unto your sign. But those signs are really invested in power. Sagittarius, where the moon is, isn't really invested in power. Sagittarius is invested in freedom. Freedom of mind, freedom of thought, freedom of philosophy, freedom of religion, right? And also the application of a system that allows that person to experience some degree of freedom. It is not a sign that's connected to power, although one could make a case that some of the greatest despots in the world, being Sagittarius, wound up being incredibly powerful. That power was based on ideology, philosophical power. So if I were to rank them, I would put Sagittarius just on the outside of the power graph. Capricorn's about power. So we're looking just in general with this massive stellium of Capricorn, we're looking at, with the square with Chiron and the opposition with Jupiter, how do we accrue power in our lives? How do we play the role of being sovereign or having authority in our lives? Well, if you're looking for an answer, you're going to have to take the road less traveled. It is through Uranus that you will find the answers, because everything is starting to move into a trine with Uranus. So if you're at a kind of a loggerheads and you're in this T-square, your way out is the road less traveled. It is not going to be conventional. If this is on the plate for you now. If it's not on the plate for you now, then hey, great. Carry on. But if it is, your way out is not going to be the tried and true. It's going to be, everybody's going right, you're going left. Everybody's going left, you go right. And I think in general, all these trines of Uranus can be very advantageous if we are willing to let go of our old systems. And I'm telling you right now, we are at the edge of the old systems. Just look at what's going on in the world. We just had a failed coup in Iran. People are being hunted down, right? And now they're pissed. That was a astroturf coup. Make no mistake about it. Did it work? No. They're going after protesters with a fucking vengeance. And it's like you hit the hornet's nest again. So we've got that. We have the whole Somali thing. We've got Trump pounding his chest, saying he's going to take Greenland. We got the Venezuela thing, which, by the way, the unintended consequences of Venezuela are still not in. the executives of the oil companies have basically told Trump, we're not going to pay for to basically modernize Venezuela's petroleum infrastructure. You're the one that did that. If you want to do it, that's on you. And what they do, and I don't blame them, they look around at the Elon Musks and the Sam Altmans and the Larry Ellisons who are getting fat fucking tax breaks and incentives for their data campuses. And they're looking at that and going, well, if you're doing that for those guys, you could do that for us. This is how business works. So you need to foot the bill. You and the American taxpayers need to go in and do the same thing that you're doing for your Silicon bros. If you do that, we'll go back into Venezuela and we'll start pumping that crude. So the moon in Sagittarius today also is about authenticity, right? Like you have to get real. You have to get real with your emotions. And opposing Uranus, that can be disturbing. It doesn't always make other people comfortable. You may not be comfortable with other people's emotions. But we're also in a very strange trine with Saturn, Neptune, with the moon. Out of sign or out of element, as they say. So again, it's like this is a day where, getting back to Mike Tomlin, who we talked about at the beginning of the show, with the Pluto-Neptune opposition, Neptune trine, you go with the flow and you follow the impulse of the flow, you are going to be better. If you fight against the flow, it is not good. And we're going to see at a macro level how this is going to go down with the Supreme Court today or the next few days. It's a huge, momentous, two of them are huge and momentous rulings. Okay, let's get into our True Hemp Science star of the day. All right, so our True Hemp Science star of the day is none other than where'd he go? Dave GROHL. Okay, so before I do Dave GROHL, and before I give a shout out to True Hemp Science, if you have ordered a reading, Catherine Rosen, paging Catherine Rosen calling, or Robert Phoenix calling. If you have ordered a reading, I have a contact number, and some of you have done that. I will be getting back to you as I sort of in this post-op world. I'll be getting back to everybody. So hang in there. It's just going to take me a little bit of time to set you up and line you up. But if you get a reading, you'll get a landing page, and that landing page gives you a number. And you can either text me or you can call me. It's a third-party service that I employ. It's like my virtual answering service. That's how you get a hold of me. Okay? All right. And by the way, that number is listed in the show notes. So let's talk about True Hemp Science. True Hemp Science is your one-stop shop for all things CBD. You can get the fantastic gummies, which help you with your mood elevation during the day or your sleep at night. There are a series of tinctures, which are great for the saturation of your cells and get your cells essentially, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not hydrated, but close to it. Hydrated in a way where those cannabinoid receptors, because CBD has THC, which has tetrahydrocannabinol in it, that we have. And some people say, well, we don't have these cannabinoid receptors. Bullshit. All you have to do is experience it. It's like, oh yeah, I'm kind of having this reset. This reset happens at a cellular level. So continued use of CBD can help you with that. Can also help you with in other areas, like with pain. Chris has a great external salve. Also with your pet sounds. And a lot of people have used pet sounds for their pets. It's basically CBD that's engineered for your animals. Anyway, all you got to do is go there, become a first-time buyer, And when you're a first-time buyer, you get a 20% discount when you sign up. It's the First-Time Buyers Club. Type in 15MINS and you will get the goodie bag on top of your First-Time Buyers Club discount. It's a great deal. So truehempscience.com. Make CBD a part of your wellness and fitness program and regime. You'll be happy you did. Okay, let's talk Dave GROHL. Dave GROHL has a very interesting chart. Very interesting chart. I talked about power, right? I talked about the themes of power and signs connected to power. Well, he checks boxes out of three out of four of those signs. Dave GROHL is a double Capricorn. Sun in the first house. People that have sun in the first house are dominant characters. Their energy is unmistakable. They have it. They have it. And their interaction with the world is visceral and very personal. That's the nature of the sun in the first house. They're unmistakable. And with the sun in Capricorn, this guy, if you just look at from his days in Nirvana, where he started off as the drummer, to becoming the lead singer, frontman of the Foo Fighters, that is a long fucking run. Nirvana broke in 1990. That was 25 years ago. Actually, 35 years ago. 35 years, Dave GROHL has been a force in popular music. Hello, Capricorn, Sun, first house. Whatever you think of the guy, whatever you think of Foo Fighters and their music, Dave GROHL's success has been based upon creating popular music, kind of dad rock. He went from grunge to dad rock, and the longevity of the popularity. He's driven. Dave GROHL is driven. We see this in three areas of his chart. The first house and the sun, unmistakable, right? And he's got a Sun-Pluto trine, and he's got a Sun-Uranus trine. Sun-Pluto trines are fucking powerful. And Pluto is the driver of the unconscious motivation in the eighth house. It is the will to power. It is also very sexual. And we know that Dave fathered a kid out of wedlock. That happened, but came out a couple of years ago. Hello, Pluto. Pluto in the eighth house, and it turned certain people off if they weren't already turned off by Dave GROHL. This guy was a vax Nazi. By the way, R.I.P. Scott Adams, who was, you ever notice how people who were the most judgmental in terms of vaccines have suffered the most in a lot of ways? Have you ever noticed that? Interesting, isn't it? It's like the universe said, you were an asshole. You were an asshole. You took the wrong thing. And guess what? You scolded people. Scolded them. And now you get to deal with the consequences. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen to Dave GROHL because this guy is a force of nature, right? He's got this link up with Sun-Pluto, Sun-Uranus. Right? He's got this Uranus South Node conjunction. He's bringing this kind of, creative, rebellious spirit from another incarnation into this lifetime. Unfinished business. Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. Trine Mercury. He's Mercury in the first house. Interesting. He goes from being a drummer to being the lead guy, right? And a singer. Mercury first house. Who saw that coming? Who saw that coming? If you sat down and you watched the early Nirvana videos, right? You got Kurt Cobain, who's this massive icon, archetype figure. And Would you say? And I think probably at this point, Foo Fighters, I could be wrong here, but if you look at the accumulated sales of Foo Fighters albums, more than Nirvana, that the stringy haired guy pounding away on the drums was going to surpass Kurt Cobain in terms of album sales, longevity. Now, he may not have had the same impact on the culture as Kurt Cobain. I don't think anybody will defend the Foo Fighters as this legendary, groundbreaking band in the way Nirvana was. Nirvana created a movement. I think for some people, the Foo Fighters have created a bowel movement. But that said, at the end of the day, Dave Grohl is the guy who, it's not even Chris Novoselic, who I really like. He's like, I got my money. He started a little band. It was like a trio or something with some Brazilian woman. He's like, he was happy. He's like, Chris Novoselic is also like 6'5" or 6'6". He's really tall. And I think a lot of times tall people are not as driven and ambitious as shorter people. I think shorter people have more to prove. So Chris Novoselic, 6'6" Chris, can just, kick back. I got my money. I can open a restaurant. I think he became a cook or a chef or something. Good for him. But Mars conjunct Grohl's midheaven, again, that's power, right? He's got Mars and Scorpio. This motherfucker's driven. And he's going to say certain things that are going to piss people off. He did it with the unvaxxed community. And then basically made all the people who went to his show get jabbed up and probably put that same, heavy judgment and criterion upon his own band members. And the drummer for the Foo Fighters, Taylor Hawkins, well, he's gone. Are people mathing that out? So it's not always power comes with great responsibility. And I would say that during that period of time, Dave Grohl has been, it's interesting because Neptune wasn't quite opposing his son, but pretty damn close, right? And Neptune has been in opposition. We can have that conversation all over again. Neptune's on Grohl's Chiron. Saturn's going to come there, opposing Pluto, right? There's that Neptune trine that we're talking about. Should Dave Grohl give up being the head of the Foo Fighters? Should he land the mothership, or land the craft? What does Dave Grohl have to? What is he hanging on to? I saw this article the other day, or as I was putting this together, where he still dreams about Kurt Cobain. Sure, huge figure in your life. Huge figure. Is a Neptune moon square with Venus a sign of infidelity? Maybe. Maybe he's got Venus and Pisces, square moon, square Neptune. There's a shaky ground in the shaky foundation in relationshipville. Grohl going through his lunar return, at least in terms of the transiting moon on his moon in Sagittarius. So he needs new emotional territory. That's critical for Dave Grohl in his chart. And with Aries coming in here, right? Moon, true node conjunction with trine with Aries, even the true node with Aries, like his mission in this lifetime is to say, this is the fuck what I want to do. I'm going to be the guy. I'm going to be the lead. I'm going to be the one who's in charge of my own energy. And relationships be damned. You're going to follow my lead. Sorry, honey, I had a kid with another woman, but if you want to, stay on the Foo Fighters plane or whatever, the Foo Fighters craft, you're just going to have to hang in there and stay with me. And it's like, oh, gee, I get it. Look, If you're a rock star and you're monogamous, you should be fucking president. I'm just saying. Because almost every single rock star is not monogamous. You'll find some that, like, I don't think Bruce Springsteen fucked around. But then again, look at Bruce Springsteen. But you got, do you think Shannon Tweed still lets Gene Simmons, diddle some groupie? Probably. I mean, Frank Zappa is the model. Gail let Frank do whatever he did or wanted to do while he was on the road, sometimes even at home. Rock stars have they play by a different set of rules. It's just the way it is. Pro athletes are the same way. Politicians, very similar. These are people in positions of power. And they generally have some degree of personal power, unless, of course, they're just completely and utterly astroturfed, in which case they have no power at all, but people still view them as having some degree of power. Dave Grohl's got power. He's got juice. I'm telling you. If I were looking at this chart, he's got a Mars-Venus trine. This is a guy that can, seamlessly move his energy into almost any configuration of relationship that he wants, whether it's professional relationship, personal relationship. People that Venus-Mars trines have charisma. And whatever you think of him, he's got charisma. Although relationship-wise, he's not very trustworthy. And I think we've seen that. All right. His vertex is even in a power sign, Leo. But he's going to find that through whoever it is that he sidles up in relationship with. So when I summarize Dave Grohl's chart, he's in there. This is a guy that's driven. He's driven by power, vitality, life force, maybe too much. He wants to do everything on his own terms. That said, even his own terms they're not gospel. They're just not gospel. And the ability to channel one's energy. And he has energy. He's almost like a Nietzschean character in some ways. He's almost like an Ubermensch. Doesn't necessarily mean you're always going to be right or on the right side of history. You might be on the right side of your life, but as it comes to dictating the terms and conditions for other people, there's no guarantee for that. And there certainly isn't a blanket license agreement that says you can do that. It's like celebrities who chime in on political subjects. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You may think you know what you're talking about, but you don't, because you don't understand the nuance. You don't understand the context. You don't understand the history. Why? Because you're too busy in your life doing other things, becoming successful, writing songs, touring, dealing with your home, dealing with your unwed baby mamas, right? You got all these things going on. What makes you able to sit down and focus and take any reasonable amount of time to understand what's going on politically in the world? There's not. It's the same thing that plagues athletes. LeBron James thinks he's, fucking Malcolm X. He's not. He has an extremely limited worldview. I mean, and these guys in their formative years, they were all about just playing, whether it's playing music or playing sports or playing. Your goal is to play. It is not to sit down in a room and, read Alexander de Tocqueville, right? Or to sit down and read Thomas Paine, or to sit down and read Gibbon, right? This is not what they do. Maybe some do, very few. All right. That's it for now. Thanks for being here. We'll be back tomorrow again with the Astro Weather, and we'll ramp up with 15 minutes of flame. Don't forget, if you do get a reading, right, there's a number that's connected to the comments. Go there, text it, call it, do whatever you need to do. For you, those of you who have done that, circling back now that I'm on the other side of whatever it was I went through, which was ultimately very anticlimactic and is helping me with my patience. Just my big spiritual lesson with this is patience. So thanks again for your kind wishes and prayers and thoughts, and I really appreciate it. Go forth and conquer. Carpe diem. And use your head in order to discern what's real and your heart to step in what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Bye for now.